It's another episode of The Commercial Break. My name is Brian Green. This is Krissy and
Happy holidays.
Best to you, Krissy.
Best to you, Brian.
And best to you out there in the podcast universe. Thanks for joining us on yet another episode of The Commercial Break. A great episode lined up for you today, so thanks for tuning in. And as soon as Krissy remembers what the show is all about, we'll get right on track and bring you a funny episode. Maybe we should just take a break and come back in a couple hours. One of us inevitably does that every time.
We did it, yeah.
I know. We said Happy New Year for so long. And we'll get back to it after the new year. But
and then I'll be saying still Happy Holidays.
Here's the running joke. In case you don't know, in case you're just tuning in, or you've tuned in over the last couple of weeks and you're like, why do these guys and girls say Happy Holidays every time that they open up the microphones? It's not because we're trying to record an episode for the holidays. We'll get around to that. What we're actually doing is I told Krissy, like the second week in January, I'm like, what I hate about the New Year is that everyone says Happy New Year for like 2 months. They're like, oh, Happy New Year. Good to talk to you. You know, the person you haven't talked to since the New Year inevitably says Happy New Year.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wonder how long someone can get away with that, saying Happy New Year. And so we tested it. We tested it, and we got till about September. And then I got so sick of hearing Happy New Year that I said, I think the holidays are right around the corner. Let's say Happy Holidays. That's right. So fear not, we're not recording this a year ago. We're actually pretty close to the time when you're going to hear this. Big Will the Champ, our good friend here at the Commercial Break.
Yeah, great friend of the show.
You've heard him on the show. He's a great guy. He's a competitive eater. He's a big boy. He does a lot of things. He's like competitive eater. He sings. He's a R&B artist. Like, the guy is multifaceted, multi-talented, true Renaissance man, if you ask me.
He's a true Renaissance man.
And he loves loves some Commercial Break. And so him and I are in communication here and there, and he texted me over the weekend. He texted me a short video of him watching his computer, and what was on was Tom Segura's podcast, which is very, very popular. Mm-hmm. And I think he's one of the members of the Two Bears. Is that Tom Segura and the other guy? They call it Two Bears, and I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, It's an extraordinarily popular comedy podcast, much more popular than ours is. But what was interesting was that he had a guest on, and when he said goodbye to the guest, he said, okay, it was a doctor. He said, okay, doctor, thank you very much. Best to you. That's what he said, right?
It's catching on.
So then I went back and I listened to a couple of additional episodes, and now they don't say it every episode. It's not their catchphrase, like it is ours, right? Mm-hmm. That our claim to fame is best to you. But Krissy and I have started to notice that there are people, maybe it's because we say it all the time that we notice that people have said it. But until I made a joke about it, way back when, maybe a year ago at this point, until I made a joke about it, I'd never really even heard anybody ever say best to you, right?
Right.
And so I made a joke about it, and it's just stuck.
And it's so interchangeable, too.
It is. You can say it in any circumstances. Yeah, I mean, your dog dies. They're like, well, best to you. I'm sorry to hear that. Best to you. Or, you're having sex, and you're like, best to you.
That's right.
Whatever. Or she's leaving out the door, and you're like, best to you. Whatever the circumstance, best to you is right there for you. So feel free to use it. But I've noticed it's kind of spreading around, or I've noticed more people are using it. And so this really has me wondering, is it possible? Now, I'm not as egotistical to think that Tom Segura has ever listened to the Commercial Break or would have any reason to. But is it possible that someone in his circle has listened to the Commercial Break and has picked up on the phrase?
I think anything's possible, Brian.
Right. So I'm going to tell you a little story now, a little Commercial Break folklore. And I think I've told this story before, and excuse me if you've heard it before, but I'll tell it for the benefit of new listeners. About 5 months ago, Astrid and I were in the car, and we were listening to Howard Stern. I used to be a religious Stern listener. I don't get a chance much anymore. But he was doing an episode on preachers. Okay?
Oh, yeah,
now, this is a topic that a lot of people cover because they're just so hilarious. They're so fucking crazy. Yeah. And such scam artists that a lot of people do comedy bits about preachers, the televangelists. There's nothing new about that. But he is doing one on, what's his name? The guy that we always do it on. The same one. I can't remember his name. Shit, you know who it is. The guy who flies the plane.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, I'll think of his name in a second. But in episode number 4, our show, named Shamalama Ding Dong, we made fun of a particular preacher, Copeland? Yeah, Kenny Copeland.
Kenneth
Copeland.
Right.
he was talking about blowing the coronavirus away and how he had outrun a tornado in his jet by simply telling Jesus. You know, he was talking about all this crazy shit. And he has a hype man, like a lot of preachers do, behind him, talking in tongue and saying all kind of weird shit, like, hallelujah, you know, crackety mackety boogity boggity, you know, whatever he's saying, right? And so I made fun of the guy in the background, and I was like, shamalama ding dong, shamalama ding dong, shamalama ding dong. I said it a number of times, right? It was a whole thing that we did, and still beloved by some of our early listeners as one of our best. I mean, I think it's a funny episode, but so Howard is doing the exact same. He's reviewing the exact same material with the exact same preacher, and he is making fun of the guy behind him talking shit. And he says, shamalama ding dong, and then repeats it again a couple of minutes later, shamalama ding dong, right? Now, shamalama ding dong is the name of a song. It's been around, you know, you are my boo-doo-doo, my shamadama, you're my ding dong, or whatever, right? It's an old song that was in the movie Animal House.
Okay, yeah.
So shamalama ding dong, I don't know if it's the name of the song or if it's just a lyric of the song, but it's in the lexicon and it's out there in the world. And I guess you could jump to the conclusion that other people would make this comedy connection. Mm-hmm. But Astrid and I looked at each other, and Astrid was like, do you think? And I'm like, no way. Like, no way. Howard hates podcasts. He's already mentioned it multiple times in the show. There's no reason that Howard would be listening to our show. None. But she said, but is there a writer or a producer that is pitching him segments? Because, you know, he's got multiple writers, lots of writers, and they just pitch him segments, and he just decides what he's going to do. I imagine that's how it goes. I don't know. I'm not there. But I have to imagine it's similar like Saturday Night Live. They get together at the beginning of the week, and they pitch their segments. Yeah. Is it possible that one of those guys or girls heard an episode and decided, well, Howard could do that, right?
Yes.
And mentioned Shamalama Ding Dong in like a pitch meeting or something, right? Just kind of said it out loud. Is it possible? I could drive myself fucking bananas thinking about this, right? And I don't claim that anyone is stealing anything. I don't know that, and I'm not saying that that's the case because I know neither of these guys would do that. That's not their style. They're originators. They're not copycats.
Yes, but it's like music, you know, too. Like anytime you've heard something, then it can kind of weave its way into
your world, into your head. You know, you have friends that are saying stuff, you know, it just kind of all just kind of mangles together. You're right about that. And there's only really 4 chords in rock and roll, and everybody's played them all which ways they can anyway. So you're not really being original about anything. And maybe that's just the case. Maybe there's nothing really original about comedy. We're all just kind of making fun of the same shit. But
it's a good coincidence.
But it's a good coincidence. And I'm not angry. If it is the truth, which is not.
Yeah, we'll go pitch Howard.
Yeah, I'll go pitch Howard. Yeah, I'll
bring us on board, Howard.
Howard, you can buy all 118 or however many of my ideas. Buy them all for just a little. Just cut me off a little slice of that serious money, and I'll be happy to just sit in your office all day long and think of brand new connections to make in your comedy world.
Yeah, we're putting it out there.
It's just. But it does tickle me a little bit to hear that and then go, oh, I wonder, you know? I just wonder. It's like a boy can dream.
There's a chance.
Yeah, a boy can dream. Yes, that's it. That's a boy can dream. I know it's not true, but a boy can dream.